morning. Just recently we saw one of the Indiana Jones movies. Indiana and his father on a journey, going in search of the Holy Grail. It's one of those epic journeys with challenges and joys and pain and struggles. And it's really about the journey. The movie is the journey, not the destination. And I think that's a lot about life and a lot of the wisdom that we receive from the ancient traditions as well as modern traditions. What we see in movies and stories is this sense of journey. And the journey itself is the important thing. And life is a journey. Our lives are a journey in which there are experiences. For much of the time, we're more focused on the destination, where we think we're heading, as opposed to experiencing life as it happens. I was thinking about my own life journey and one particular, I guess, time, period, decision, change in direction. I was always interested in science. I studied science in high school, went on to university to study science. I wanted a career in science as a researcher in chemistry, biochemistry really. And so I landed a job at a university hospital in the immunology department doing some research as a research assistant. I had a 3-year contract and I'd finally gotten to where I thought I wanted to be. And that time was great. There were lots of learnings and experiences and challenges. But it was a period of my life where many things were also changing around me. In that 3 years, Susan and I got married, and so began the joy and the wonder and the challenges of forming a new home and a new life together. My mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and through that time she had treatments, but we watched as her life declined and ebbed away and she died. In that time I was looking forward. What would I do next? At the end of the 3-year contract, would I seek another contract? Would I apply for a job somewhere else? Would I change directions in science? I applied and was accepted to enroll in a course, a master's course in science that would extend my career or move my career forward, give me more qualifications. And as I moved towards starting that course, something in me, I'll call it an inner voice. It wasn't an audible voice, but there was this sense, this conviction, this thing in me that said, no, don't do it. And the more I struggled with it and wrestled with it, the more this voice said, no, it's not the right way for you. It wasn't as clear as that for much of the time until I made the decision that I wouldn't go ahead with that master's. But when I decided not to, the question was, what next? In my life around me, I've been part of the local church for a number of years, and I was learning about faith and Bible and God, and it was filling in some of the information, giving me some language around the experiences of the divine, of the sacred, of the holy, of God that I'd had in my life. Moments of wonder and awe and this experience of something beyond me. And I wanted to learn more. And I'd caught glimpses of a bigger world than the little one we'd experienced in this small and fairly conservative church that was lovely, but still just a small church. And so I was keen to go and study some theology and maybe use that with my science and do bioethics or something like that, something on the science, theology, faith interface. But to grow in spirituality, to understand spirituality more deeply, to learn more about this person Jesus who fascinated me, who turned my life upside down with his sayings and his teachings and his life. I wanted to understand more about that. And so as I talked to people, talked to Susan and wise elders and other people around me, they suggested I candidate for ministry and go through the process of the church and be accepted into the theological college, which I did. Mum had died by the time I started, and so part of this journey, this next stage of my journey, was processing grief and pain and suffering and losing this control and moving out of this paradise of childhood, I guess you'd call it, into a different world. It was darker and deeper and broader and richer. I learned stories, I heard stories of the church and the world in Latin and Central America where there's oppressive regimes and these brave and courageous theologians and leaders who rise up to work with the poor and the marginalised and the oppressed and the persecuted. And they themselves are persecuted and often killed, speaking out in the name of God, of life, of justice, of freedom, of hope. And it inspired me. Stories from Africa and South Africa, from Asia, from indigenous people in this land. The stories of history and the stories that are contemporary. And stories of this Jesus who invited me into a countercultural way of life, which was not upward, but of letting go. And I didn't know what this meant. And it was some way through that training that I realised I could go into this congregational thing. I could be a minister in a congregation. That was a big turning point for me. And it was this inner voice, this voice that kept pushing me towards this direction. This voice that was there, this inner sense of spirit, of wonder that pushed me forward, called me, if you like, into this new thing. And life is that sort of a journey, an experience along the way of growing and becoming and of being. Many of the wisdom traditions, from the ancient Greeks through the Hebrews through to modern psychology, talks about two journeys of life. This initial journey, this outward journey that begins in childhood, of going out, adolescence and young adulthood, of experiencing life, of pushing against the boundaries and barriers and trying things. It's about ego driven, it's about me becoming, finding my tribe, my identity, my place where I belong. It's about ambition. It's about building the container of my life and experiencing the world and finding where I fit. And then along the way something happens. A crisis, my mum's death, a grief or loss, a loss of a job or a broken relationship or illness or maybe it's a sense of great love, of falling in love and recognising it's not just about me, of becoming vulnerable. All of these things humble us, push the ego down and we become humbled before it. Or maybe it's a sense of wonder, of staring into the starry sky at night and seeing the vastness of the universe and I'm just one little person. Or I'm one person among 7 billion. Or looking at the sunset or sunrise or the vista before us and filled with wonder and awe. Or for me holding my children when they were born for the first time and just being filled with awe and wonder at this miracle of life and feeling very helpless and powerless and vulnerable before them. And these things change us and push us into that second journey of life, which is not so much about the container, but filling it with what's important. Relationships, being and becoming, of letting go, of growing in spirit, not just accumulating material wealth or power or possessions or career or those things, which have their place. But filling it with relationships, with wisdom, with life, with understanding my connections to one other, to other people, to the earth, to other creatures, and growing in spirit, that it's not just about my mind or body or psychology, but I have a spirit, and it's listening and growing into the faith and wisdom traditions of the spirit, and becoming more whole, and experiencing the moments of life in their fullness and wonder. Not everyone gets to that point, but they're the journeys of our life. And this week, I read a story of the ancient patriarch and matriarch of the Hebrew people, the Jewish faith, Abraham and Sarah. And they hear this God presence call them out of their life, out of their home, and to go on a journey. And the journey is a journey of becoming. And they want to know the destination, and God says, you'll know when you get there, because I'll tell you. You'll know when you're there. if you follow in this journey, you'll be blessed and you'll be a blessing to the world. And they pack up everything they have, their herds and flocks and manservants and maidservants and the little family they have, no children but their nephew. And they travel, they go. And they experience this journey of becoming, of letting go and becoming, of wisdom and of life. And in Matthew's story of Jesus, there's a story of disciples who encounter Jesus on the beach when they're fishing, fishermen. And he invites them to come and follow, to let go of their nets and their fishing boats and to come and follow. And they do. They down tools and their livelihoods and their jobs, and they follow on the road with this Jesus. And they learn what life is about. And they grow in wisdom and wonder and spirit, and God is with them. These are just some of the stories of journey, my life and others' lives. And we're all invited into this journey that is life, a gift. And many times we are distracted and we miss the living, the moment of living. We're invited into this journey in a deeper way. A journey with God, with the sacred, with the holy, with this trinity of love that gives us life and being and hope, which draws us into inclusive community of equality. It connects us with the world and with the earth and with the creatures and with this universe that is wondrous. Connects us in love, grace and hope. Will you share this journey?